All right. Well, welcome everyone. On behalf of the Association for the Study of Higher Education, it's my pleasure to welcome you today. We're having an informal discussion with some of our amazing volunteer leaders around presenting international scholarship at the ASHE conference. And before we get officially started, I just wanted to welcome everyone. My name is Alicia Castillo-Shrestha. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director for Conference and Events for ASHE. And it's my pleasure to support this session behind the scenes. So if you need any technical support or accessibility questions, or you need anything during the session, you can feel free to use the chat and reach out. You can also email me if that's easier for you, and I'll put my email in the chat. It's just alicia@ashe.ws. And I do want to give a huge thanks to our volunteer leaders who are your facilitators for today's session, which you'll hear from all of them in a few minutes. And I will offer a land acknowledgement in a second as well, but feel free to reach out if you need anything today. We are recording today's session so that it's accessible to folks who want to learn more about this process after this live session. So that will be on the ASHE YouTube station as soon as we are able to get it captioned and edited. So I will go ahead and do a quick land acknowledgement to just acknowledge the fact that I'm logging in today from the traditional homelands of the Shawnee and Miami in Southwest Ohio. And just wanted to shine some light on the land acknowledgement that's on the screen in relation to Denver, Colorado, which is the location of our 2025 ASHE conference. Our volunteer leaders on the conference committee are doing amazing work around moving beyond land acknowledgements and really diving into the history and the complexities of space and place as we move around for our ASHE events. So I'll also put some links in the chat regarding the work from our local and community engagement committee who wrote the land acknowledgement that you see on the screen. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to our facilitators for introductions. Thank you all for being here.
All right, Charlie, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll go first. I'm Charlie Mathies. I'm a faculty member at Old Dominion University in Southeast Virginia. I get the pleasure to be the pre-conference co-chair of CIHE with Tina, and I'll turn it.
Great. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all here and welcome. And my name is Hyejin Tina Yao. I'm also serving as a pre-conference co-chair in CIHE Pre-Conference co-chair, and I am at Momentum at UCLA as Associate Director for the CIC Research.
Hi, I'm Matt Witenstein, an Associate Professor at the University of Dayton, and I have the pleasure of co-chairing the international section of ASHE this year with my buddy Frank Fernandez.
Thanks, Matt. You basically introduced me. I'm at University of Wisconsin-Madison and happy to be here.
All right. So, I mean, before Charlie, go ahead.
No, okay. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Tina.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to turn it over to you. But anyway, yes, go ahead.
Well, before we get too far along, we wanted to take a moment to talk about what is the Council on International Higher Education within ASHE. This is a forum designed to disseminate and allow discussion on research in order to advance research theory on higher education from a comparative and international perspective. This is a group that provides a focal point and network for both students and faculty entering into the field of international higher education and research. It is kind of our goal, or as a group, is to provide communication linkage among higher education researchers and to identify our research priorities, exchange ideas and methodologies for the facilitation of cooperative research and evaluation. We have a couple of our committee members here with us, led by Dr. Katie Koo, who is the chair of the executive committee. And we can see this is the rest of the wonderful executive committee who is working hard, oftentimes behind the scenes, doing a lot of hard work that doesn't get recognized enough. So, but this is a wonderful leadership for our group. So thank you.
Great. So, I mean, CIHE is a really wonderfully supportive community for especially international scholar. And there is some ways you can connect with the CIHE. The first, I mean, you can serve as a like executive member. So this term, we have several vacancies, one for vice chair position and 2 spots for members at large. And Shinji Katsumoto is serving as a nomination chair. So if you have any questions about this vacancies, and if you want to, if you are interested in serving in executive board, please, feel free to reach out to me. And personally, I serve as members at large for 2 years, like 2000. Okay, I forgot the years, but I served as a members at large, but it was a really amazing opportunity for me to learn, like just Charlie mentioned that, to learn about what's going on in behind the scene, who is serving for what. And I learned a lot about the, commitment of all ASHE members and leadership. And also as an international scholar, it was a great opportunity to learn about, culture, organizational culture, how these organizations operate. So it was a great, opportunity for you for your professional development. So I encourage to, I encourage to join this amazing group. So yeah, here's another way you can join the community. Definitely you can join the CIHE. So in ASHE, there are 4 councils and the CIHE is one of them. And so you can definitely join the ASHE CIHE Pre-Conference. And also we publish the bi-monthly newsletter. So I added a link here so you can see you can subscribe the newsletter. And then we host a lot of different types of networking and social events for graduate students and scholars, and webinar as well. So yeah, we'll welcome. And then I see that the chair, Dr. Ku is here. And so it's very welcoming community. All right. Okay. So then we'll get to the business. So this is our agenda. So we introduced the speakers, and then we'll go over 2025 ASHE proposal submissions, and then we'll also share some format of session, and then so that you can think of what formats would fit for your submission. And also we're also shares our tips and strategies from to submit your proposals, and then we'll open to the Q&A. All right, so let's get started. All right, I will hand over this to Frank.
Hi, we wanted to make sure that folks were aware of basically the timeline that plays out. It's kind of similar for whichever role you might have, whether you're submitting to be a reviewer, applying to be a reviewer, or submitting a proposal. We try to hit a hard deadline. ASHE does not expect there to be any postponing of the deadline this year. So that deadline is April 30th. That'll be for whether you're applying to be a reviewer, which we always appreciate, for both the pre-con and the regular conference sessions, whether you're submitting a proposal to present, and of course, whether you're willing to be a discussant. We try to, ASHE's in the past always tried to, there's no perfect time, right? We know that there's the end of the semester. Folks have a lot of going on. But so that's why we try to at least create awareness if we can't create flexibility with that deadline. Throughout May, you will be invited to review some proposals. I think if you submit a proposal, you're required to also be willing to review proposals. We expect that then notifications will go out in early July. And then really things start getting scheduled and you start finding out more information about which days you can be assigned to present or to be a discussant or session chair. We use a mass review process, so folks don't know who's submitting when they're reviewing. With typically having 3 reviewers per proposal, I think that in practice, ASHE tries to make sure that at least there are different types of reviewers, let's say, so a mix of both graduate student members and also folks with terminal degrees or faculty members reviewing each proposal. With the kind of using a Likert scale from 1 to 5 across a variety of dimensions, there's a good rubric that's online. And it's a holistic score, right? So we always want to emphasize that. Sometimes folks can have questions about, well, why did I get these scores, but I didn't get accepted? This other person got these scores and they did get accepted. There are lots of things that go into consideration for that. We're trying to find papers that fit together to make sessions. There's also, the qualitative comments that go along with the scores. And so often we encourage you, reach out if you've got questions about the types of proposals that can be most competitive for acceptance. Reach out to us or other members of CIHE who've had their work accepted in the past and offer, I think many of us are happy to offer guidance or suggestions. The criteria, these are kind of the elements within a proposal. In my experience, it's always helpful to have bold headings, even when the formatting is lost, right? Like try to use spacing to make sure that the headings are clear where you're transitioning from one section to the other. So significance, kind of a framework, relationship to prior literature. Soundness of the study can be methods, but it doesn't have to be, right? We have different types of proposals. And so not everything is about methodological rigor in kind of a traditional sense. There are other ways to talk about the indicators of the work that's being presented, the findings, and then kind of overall clarity, right? It's this whole thing, as you read it as a package, right? Each section, how does it all fit together and does it make sense? We keep the theme up at the top for folks to refer back to. Others will talk later about it, but it's generally something that's helpful to keep in mind as you prepare your proposal, and how each section, not that they all have to, but perhaps maybe at least one of the sections relates back to that conference theme. And with that, I'll pass it to Matt.
Right. Hello, everybody. So just keep in mind that while we're mentioning CIHE here on the slide, there are 2 venues in which you can send your paper to, right? There's I always want to call it the conference, but it's the committee, right? On international higher education. Is that the right first word?
Correct.
It is committee. Okay.
Or council.
And council. Thank you.
Yes.
Why do
sorry.
I don't know why. Conference, committee, council. So there's that pre-conference component and there's the during the conference component, right? So Charlie and Tina are gonna work on the CIHE part, which is a council, and Frank and I are going to work on the during the conference part. However, the cool thing is we will work together, which is kind of cool. We'll get to kind of work a little bit together. So saying that, there are a variety of types of proposals for which you can submit. Being that this is, as Alicia mentioned earlier, an informal session, I'll just give small highlights, but would rather take questions from folks, as to what they might think about or want to know as it relates to the different types of papers. The first couple, research paper and a scholarly paper, in the research paper, a couple thousand words for each. The research paper, as it dictates, is more on the empirical side. Scholarly might be more developing arguments, something that's a synthesis of literature, something more conceptual. The interactive symposium, Alicia might be able to better talk about that one. That one sounds very exciting. I haven't been to any of those, so I don't know if other folks have attended, no, not interactive symposium. I meant the performance visual and digital scholarship. Sorry. Alicia, do you want to share anything about those that I'm assuming you might have been to one?
It may be shocking, but I don't quite have as much time to get to go
That's
to
true.
sessions
Good
during the
point.
conference. However, I do get to help folks prepare, and I hear lots of great things about sessions. So I can say performance visual digital scholarship, also known as PVDS, are sessions that include scholarships such as photo voice, folks that do performance, spoken word, documentaries, all kinds of scholarship in these different types of more creative forms are welcome at the conference in a variety of sections and pre-conferences. We have a grid within the call for proposals that show you which formats are submissible to which sections of the conference. But we have some, yes, amazing scholarship being done in this format. And if you're interested, we have a great webinar on the ASHE YouTube station that goes into what PVDS is and how to kind of think about your scholarship in this format. And I'm happy to share that in the chat.
By the way, here's the, no, I sent it to the wrong one. Here's the call for proposals actually. And lower down, I want to say starting on page like somewhere around 60-ish, 57, 58, there are excellent examples of each of these. So like, for example, interactive symposia start on page 61. And that gives you a really nice description of how they actually sound really neat. We do something in CIS that you might have seen, like these provocation type things, where instead of just focusing on specific research papers, you can really create sort of an argument and a dialogue and discussion about a topic, which is kind of cool. The self-designed paper sessions remind me at least of what I think of as symposia often, where there would be a discussant and a chair, just like in the interactive symposia, there would be where there might be distinct papers, but that there would be a weave, a tie through them all, topically. I really like the works in progress, and it's actually worked for me once. A student and I proposed a work in progress that ended up becoming an article because we were able to, so these are only 1,500 words, and they give you about 20 minutes to sort of share out your idea. You could put up, you could have a single page to hand out to people. You could put up some PowerPoint slides, but the cool thing is you can provide some questions. And what was really helpful was with those questions that we posed, we were able to go back and really think through this sort of, I wouldn't say it was at the very beginning stage, but somewhere in the middle of a stage of a research project we were working on, and helped us sort of get to the next stages and complete the project. So I would highly suggest the works in progress if you're sort of in the middle or sort of beginning, but far enough in the beginning where you've conceptualized through pretty well. I think Ana Martinez Alemán started those a couple of years ago and sort of changed the roundtables to that. And I find them to be really, really helpful sessions. And then, of course, there are the poster sessions. So lots of opportunities.
Right. I can just briefly share my experience with the interactive symposium. I love that format, actually. Basically, you can design your own session. That's an interactive symposium based on under our ASHE theme. You can compile all different research or conceptual or research papers. So for me, with the other international scholars, I designed some critical methodology in research with international students. We shared some literature review and some methodology, and what does that mean, that critical methodology or research method in research with international students. So you can also invite your discussion, or it is up to you. So you can in that case, I invited Dr. Christina Yao as our discussant, but I was a chair and also I was a presenter. But in this session, you can have more like Q&A session. It's like interactive. You know, you can design some interactive activities with the audience as well. So I really enjoy that.
Well, and having Christina must have made it both brilliant and fun. The one thing I will say, as having been on this committee before, just something to consider, depending on the type of paper, there's more or less space in the program, right? So if you want to propose an interactive symposium, and let's say, you know, Frank and I have 50 spaces to fill, right? That fills perhaps 4 of those spaces. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't propose them, because and now I'm sounding like, you know, a Debbie Downer, and that is not what I'm trying to do. But really think through, if you have something like Tina had that is really cohesive and it's worth putting in as an interactive symposium, do it. But we really have to think through, you know, if we take that symposium, that's several spots versus 4 other papers that could be taken. That doesn't mean that it won't happen, because they do get taken. It's just something to kind of think through. You know, we have to think through the space as we develop the program.
And as you submit for your proposals in, we have a couple of ways to volunteer, and we really encourage you to think about this. We really need you all to help us with this process, not only to review, but also on site when we're in Denver to be chairs and discussants. These are really valuable and vital roles that we need to serve. And I do want to point out that there are 2 different tracks we're talking about here. There's the pre-conference track that Tina and I are working with, and then there is the in-conference track for international that Matt and Frank are working with. And so please volunteer for both of those. And there is a little bit of the timeline for each of those roles. The reviewer, we ask you to provide the reviews. Most likely will come out in early May, and they're back at the end of May. And then that's kind of the end of that role. But with the chair and discussant, we send this out probably later on into July and into early August. And then you get in October your actual papers to review and to prepare the feedback and remarks. Actually, I think it's going to be early November due to the date this year of ASHE. So please volunteer, please help us out. We know many of you, and we will be also contacting you to help us out on these roles from reviewing, chairing, and discussing. But we would really appreciate your volunteer. Thank you very much.
Before moving on, I have a quick question about serving reviewer, chair, discussion. So the discussion should have a doctorate degree, right? PhD degree, but reviewer and chair is open for the doctorate students, right?
Correct. We try to find people who are more seasoned in the field to be the discussant, because the idea is that they provide feedback on the papers that are presented during the sessions, and then they kind of coordinate the themes and find the thematic positions and issues within each of those papers that are presented in a session and comment on that as a whole. So yes, so the discussant role is typically for our more seasoned professionals. Early career researchers and faculty members are encouraged to take those roles, but we do, the reviewer and the chair positions are open for graduate students, doctoral students, as well as everyone throughout the career. So it's a very good question, Tina.
Yeah, yes, so I want more graduate students to have these experiences serving as a reviewer and chair. And I know you might feel, some pressures to serve as a reviewer, but it's really, you've already learned how to do article critiques in your coursework. So it's pretty much something like that. And chair is an amazing service because not much heavy duty, but most likely organizing the sessions, and then you can also networking in that session. So yes.
Yeah, and you're introducing the speakers, the papers. It's a great way to network. I won't say how long ago, when I was first starting out in ASHE over 20 years ago. That was a great way for me to meet people and to connect. And I still have those connections from actually chairing a session over 20 years ago. I still have a couple of connections from that. So it's a really great way to network and to meet people.
Awesome. Okay, next. So tips and strategy from co-chairs. I was just open to everyone to share any tips, any strategies to submit your proposals and also serve as volunteers.
I think what you have there on the slide, what's on the slides is really good. Start early. Don't wait to the last minute. As someone who has done this, a co-chair before for ASHE, as well as with other professional associations, we can tell when a proposal is rushed. And so start early, start working on it, edit it, and then and go from there. And make sure it's also masked. It creates less work for us on the backside to unmask these things if necessary. So I think what you have there, what is put up here is excellent.
Also, I think, and Alicia could tell us, aren't there some example papers somewhere on the website too, number one? And number two, ask your colleagues, friends, faculty members that you work with for some of theirs. I often will do that. I'll share, past ones. Maybe I'll send them a rejected one, to see if, no, I'm just playing. But it's fun. It's helpful to see what other people have done as a way just to help you.
Yes, and for the sake of the recording, I'll just verbalize what I put in the chat, but there are example proposals on the ASHE website. You do have to be logged in to the new ASHE website to access them because it's just a way to protect the information that's been shared. If you are not an ASHE member, you can create a free account, of course, to submit and also to access this information. But yes, that's a great point. There are examples, and I know we do have a new work in progress example that if it's not there yet, it will be shortly. So we're working on getting even more examples available. And if you need help, if you see something that's not there that you're like, oh, I'd really love to see an example of a PVDS session, reach out to conference@ashe.ws and we can help find something for you. Of course, more time is better for this type of thing. I know we're already mid-April, so let us know as soon as you can if you need something that you don't see online.
All right, I was unmuted. Okay. Yes, the sample example was really helpful, and also, well, oops, sorry. How can I go back? Go back. Yes, start early. I know we are all busy, but at least you can start structuring your proposal, put it on the heading first. That will be a really great start. All right, so next, frequently asked questions. And then Matt, thank you so much for clarifying. We are talking about two different sections in the conference. So CIHE Pre-Conference will start one day earlier than main conference. And then international higher education sessions in the main conference. I mean, even though we have common themes of in research and activities, but there are some slight distincts, or there's a strength of each session. So here, luckily, we have the CIHE chair, Dr. Koo, is here. So maybe we can hear about some of the, her wisdoms and thoughts about the first questions. How are the CIHE Pre-Con and International Higher Education session different? And also we can also definitely, our speakers can chime in, but I want to take advantage of this chance since she's here.
Sure. Thank you all for taking the time to help the community to prepare the proposals. So I can answer to these questions, but as my position, I don't have the control to select the proposals. You four people will be the ones who review the proposals. So the first question is really a frequently asked questions by the audience and by the proposal writers. So in terms of the contents, the pre-con and main international higher education section are not really different. I would say any research that focuses on internationalization of higher education, whether that's study for international student or international faculty, or any issues, the globalization of the higher education, all other kind of contexts related to internationalization of higher education will be under the scope of both pre-con and international section, the main conference. But I think that the most distinctive difference between these two will be the audience of the session. So for pre-con, as we all know, it's pre-conference. So people who are dedicated to CIHE, this international topic, in focusing on one day. So the audience will be there to register, pay for their pre-con section. So most of the audience who are in your session will be the scholars who does study international higher education. And for main convention, international higher education section is spread throughout 3 days. So you might have some scholars outside of international higher education topic, and also because the sessions are spread out within those 3 days, maybe you would not get as many audience. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but we just have to understand that all the sessions are throughout 3 days. So that's the biggest difference. And I guess that although it's 1 day versus 3 days, but the chair's discussant will be experts in international higher education topics. So I think you will get a really great feedback from the discussant from both pre-con and international. I think that also it matters within the quota for each section. So let's say if there are a certain spot under CIHE Pre-Con and a certain under certain spots available for international higher education section, but let's say there are less submitted proposals for Pre-Con versus the number of submitted proposals for international higher education section, that I don't know how competitive it is to be accepted. For that case, this is also my question to the chairs who are here. So I was wondering if there's a flexibility that if one section is fully booked up with all great quality of the proposals, then let's say pre-con is already full, then Tina and Charlie, do you think that you can communicate with Matt and Frank just to see, hey, these are some great proposals, but unfortunately we don't really have a space. Do you have 1 or 2 sessions available? That kind of things will be something you can consider. And also the last thing, well, I know that I'm switching from the answer and the question, but I just brought to my attention that some audience, they booked a ticket until, let's say, from the beginning of the conference to the second day of the conference. So for those audience who are not staying the whole time, they might leave early. So some audience will not gonna be able to attend to some of the sessions in international higher education section. So same thing. Some audience might not be able to register for pre-con, so they may skip all the pre-con convention. So I think it's also a unique feature of like how long the audience will stay. So that's also the difference between these two sections. So if anyone can answer to my question.
Great, but thank you so much for sharing your experience. Yes, please feel free to, Charlie, you go first.
So when I did the co-chairing of international in the past, and we shared with the pre-conference, and we did some trading of sessions, if you will, I think it really, particularly with the pre-conference, really helped us get a more tightly focused, because it's only, you know, a single day. In that case, here, I don't know what we're gonna get, but I do it, and I think it's, you know, we can, you know, work collaboratively to put forth the best proposals and best presentations out there. And so I think it's you know, the willingness of us to do that, and to work together. And I don't see any reason why we couldn't, shouldn't, or won't. So I'm not, I guess I'm speaking for all four of us, but that's just kind of my own personal opinion, but that's kind of what I'm putting out there. So.
Matt?
I'm not sure I have anything else to add to that.
Okay. Yes, all right. Okay, so we will definitely, as it all, you know, Katie and Charlie mentioned that, and we will work and collaborate and communicate with international higher education sessions in main conference, because that's why we are also hosting this webinar together. Yeah, and then the
Tina,
second
could I
question is
mention,
how,
sorry, could I mention
yeah, go
one
ahead.
thing? I put it in the chat, but I wanted to
Yes.
just make sure I mention. So
Uh-huh.
for folks who are submitting, you know, you can only submit to one section or one pre-conference. So you can't submit to the pre-conference and to the international section. So with that in mind, the note I put in the chat is if this happens where
Yes.
it's like, oh, we love your proposal, there's no more room in the pre-con, we want to move it to the general conference, or vice versa, you would be contacted first as the author of the proposal to say, this is the situation, we love your proposal, but we don't have any more room in the international section. We think it'd be a great fit for the pre-con. Does that work for you? Because some people do apply to one or
Right.
the other, or virtual conference day is the other piece of this. So if you're thinking,
Right.
I'm only going to apply to virtual conference day, we wouldn't take your proposal and then say, oh, we're going to be in the in-person conference. That would not happen. So I just want to make sure we named that, because we do want to accept as many as we can that are a great fit, but we also realize there's logistical restrictions and things that play into that.
Thank you, Alicia. That you said it perfectly.
Okay, next question for the speakers. How much should I mention the conference theme in the proposal?
I'm being recorded, so I feel bad saying this. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be important, but at the end of the day, I don't know if I've typically mentioned it too much. I have a feeling that this year's conference theme, though, could be one that connects with lots of people's work. So it can be very meaningful to mention it if you do. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that a proposal is going to be rejected for not mentioning the conference theme.
And Alicia put in the chat earlier, about a half hour ago, talking about that the connection to the theme is not a criteria for the evaluation of any proposals. And so officially it is not there, but you know, unofficially we would like to see some of that connection, because again, we like to put together a conference around this theme, and I think, like Matt said, it's very easy with a lot of what's happening and the research that's out there to connect to this theme. I think it's actually a pretty easy theme to connect to. So, and I would encourage you to do so. But again, those are some key points to bring up.
Great, thank you. And then last question, are there opportunities to participate virtually if travel is not possible? And especially we understand that this might be a little bit challenging time to travel, especially abroad. And then also pre-conference, we also welcome Global Scholar as well. So maybe Alicia, you can help us answer it, or any speakers, yeah.
Sure. Yes. So, absolutely. You can submit a proposal to the virtual conference day. So that would be, it's going to be on, let me look, Wednesday, no, Thursday, October 30th. So if you wanted to have your proposal considered for virtual conference day, you could submit it, but that would be to the general conference. So the pre-conference for CIHE is only in person. So that was the other distinction. So you can't participate virtually in the CIHE pre-conference. That's only in person on November 12th. So, but that's one way you could do it, is you could submit to the international section or any other section that fits your scholarship for virtual conference day. For volunteering, you can be a reviewer, because all of those reviews happen online. You don't have to be in person for any part of your review process. If you wanted to chair a session and get that experience, you could do that for virtual conference day. We do need volunteers that are available for virtual conference day. We also need discussants that are available for virtual conference day as well. The other piece I'll mention that's new for this year is CEP, the Council for Ethnic Participation, which also has overlap with CIHE a lot of the time. They also have a virtual conference, a virtual pre-conference this year. So you can also check out that opportunity if virtual is your only option, or you're very interested in virtual opportunities. So I'll just mention that. But for CIHE and international research, virtual conference day would be your opportunity to submit your work, and then you could also volunteer for the general conference through virtual conference day.
And speaking of virtual, I believe this year we are going to do the virtual keynote for the CIHE Pre-Conference. We're going to do it virtually, and I think we talked about that being on Friday, October 31st. And I'm forgetting the time, but I believe it was 10 a.m. Mountain Time.
That sounds right. Yes.
Denver. So just put that on your calendars as well. Last year we had 50, 60 people show up, maybe more, I think, throughout Riyadh's keynote last year. So we're really excited about that.
All right, so these are the frequently asked questions. So now we want to open to the audience. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. You can feel free to turn on your camera and turn on your mic. Yeah.
I think my question is related to Tina's question, and also I think this question goes to Alicia. So when Tina asked about the virtual opportunity for those who cannot travel, in addition to the virtual conference officially offered by ASHE, some of my students were wondering if they could participate in ASHE presentation by Zoom in, or they record their presentation part and then put it in their PowerPoint slides so that the other colleagues who are in the site can play their presentation. So, well, what do you think? Are there any updated policy? I know, Alicia, this wasn't possible previously, but since 2025 is very, weird. I'm not sure how much I can say, but a lot of international scholars, there's a lot of restrictions for them. And those are something that US scholars cannot fully understand about this situation. So I'm gonna stop here. But are there, considering the situation, are there any rooms for flexibility, Alicia? I'm speaking on behalf of CIHE community.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so yes, in that ideally all the presenters are able to be at their session, either virtual conference day or in person. The restrictions around zooming into sessions it's complicated. So it's about accessibility for the session. It's about bandwidth and Wi-Fi in the hotel, which is not always reliable. So the option for someone who's presenting with a group and one of the presenters can't be there virtually would be the second best option to being there in person is recording your section and having that played by your co-presenters. Unfortunately, we cannot have folks zooming into sessions because of the lack of accessibility for the sessions, and also because of the unreliable nature of zooming into when we have a conference going on with so many folks using the Wi-Fi. So that's why that restriction is there. But all that to say, also, if there's other extenuating circumstances that we need to be aware of from, the ASHE side that we need to figure out options for, please let us know. If there's anything we can do, we will. But in that scenario, the option would be record the presenter and have the co-presenters play their portion. Great question. I know we're opening it up for folks. I haven't seen anyone unmute yet or send a question in the chat. I did want to highlight a few opportunities in case we have graduate students watching this or in the audience right now. We have graduate travel scholarships available. So if you are a graduate student, I'd encourage you to apply for the graduate scholar. It's going to open, the process will open later in a few months, but I wanted to make sure you put this on your calendar. You're aware of the graduate travel scholarship opportunity. The other opportunity that's in the call for proposals document that's new this year for graduate students is a poster award. So we don't have the criteria yet from the donors, but in the call for proposals, if you Control F and search the PDF, it'll bring up new for this year is a poster award for graduate students who submit to the poster section or to the poster form as a poster. Sorry, words are hard today. So graduate students submitting a poster can be considered for a new poster award. And so that is something that we'll have more information coming out soon. But if you're a graduate student, that's something else to look at and consider as you're preparing your proposal. Yes, it's a $750 award.
Curious if anybody does have any questions about that hasn't submitted proposals before, just tips, anything they're worried about, concerns, or if any of us have any tips. Mine would be, don't take it seriously, but also don't feel like you have so much pressure. Like, enjoy the experience of doing it. One of the things I really appreciate about ASHE compared to a lot of organizations in the field of education is that typically you're going to get some pretty good feedback. And we also work, I would say by and large, people give critical feedback, not mean feedback, 99.99% of the time. And part of what the four of us will do is also make sure that you don't get any mean feedback. It's usually quite helpful toward, putting some meaningful work forward.
If I have any tips for submissions, it's look at the different sections for what you're proposing, whether it's like a research paper or a scholarly paper, work in progress. Please answer each of those sections. And, the more direct you can be in there, the better. But you want to make sure you answer each of those sections because that makes the evaluation much easier from the reviewer's end. If there's anything that I would say to strive for, it is clarity in your writing, and clarity of, explaining what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. And those are some of the tips that I would, particularly for first timers, those are areas that I would think about concentrating on as you're putting this together.
That's true. I mean, despite the result, whether you get accepted or not, this is, just trying to write a proposal really help you together, organize your ideas, and also to improve your research project, especially when you are working on a work in progress. So this is a great opportunity for you. For you to, write a proposal. This is great learning opportunity. Any other questions
I
or
will,
concern?
oh, I
Okay,
was
go
going,
ahead.
yeah, no, I was going to say, we can leave the last maybe 5 minutes. I'll stop the recording in case anyone's wants a little bit more of a private time to ask questions, but we can stay on and answer more of those. I just wanted to re-emphasize the point that Charlie made in terms of making sure all of the sections are included. So in the call for proposals, you'll see each format type has different like bullet points. There's actual bullet points there that say research paper proposal should describe as many of the following as applicable, preferably in this order. So as you're making your draft, like those headers we talked about, bold those headers, objectives or purpose, the philosophical, theoretical, or practical argument basis, literature and sources, research plan, and because if you do it in that order, it makes it so much easier for the reviewers to make sense of what you're saying, to easily make sure everything is there. So that's one of the pieces that the program committee has really said stands out when folks adhere to that and make it really easy for you to make your scholarship shine in a really straightforward way. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording so we can have some more Q&A time. But thank you so much to all of our presenters for pulling this together, for Dr. Koo for being here on behalf of CIHE. And we look forward to reviewing your submissions and your volunteer applications. And I will stop the recording so we can continue our chat for those who have questions.
Okay.